Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, is this loud enough? Can everybody hear me well? All right, so first of all, I would just like to thank Auntie Lola Shanae for this opportunity. It's something that when I came here last year, I really wanted to be in this kind of setting. So it's a dream come true for me. Thank you very much. Femi, I want to rat you out first. Right, yesterday, Kiwi came bragging to me that his book has sold out before the session. So he came and he told me, because my book is so good, people have seen, they've not heard anything about it, but somehow they are interested in it. He said I should focus more on his book today and I should disregard Louisa. Exactly. So yeah, he's not your friend. So yeah, I'm going to start with these are your debut novels, your writers. But Louisa, you write video games. You also write young adult fiction. But this is the first time that you're actually writing adult fiction. So, and Femi, you, of course, are a writer, but this is your debut novel for fiction, no more fiction. Right? So I just want to ask, what was the experience like for you? How was it different from what you usually write? And for both of you, from video games, how was the experience of writing something different for the first time? And for you as well, Femi?
Should I go first?
Yes, please.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me, Ake and Lola. Yeah, and let me answer that as succinctly as I can. While this is my first published novel, it's not the first novel that I've written.
Okay.
So I don't see any sort of discontinuity with what I've been working on. I write essays, I write short stories. I've written 2 novel manuscripts and I've published 1. So
this is the new thing for you. Yeah, go ahead.
How it differs from other things that I worked on.
Yes.
I found the experience of writing Pride and Joy kind of freeing because young adult novels I do love. I enjoy writing for children. It's a lot of fun. But this I felt was I had a lot more room to move and to try different things and to try different characters and different age groups, different experiences. And so for that, that's kind of the main difference, I think, between this and then my young adult work.
Lovely. For people that do not like to read blurbs, I'd just like you to give like a short summary of what your book is about, both you and Femi.
Yes. Oh, goodness. My book is a little bit ridiculous, to be fair. For those of you who've read it, you already know. It's about the matriarch of a family. So it's a Nigerian-Canadian family. The matriarch is turning 70. Amazing. Her birthday's on Good Friday. Excellent. She shows up at the house. She goes to lie down. She dies. Her family is like, oh, goodness. Like, is she going to resurrect in 3 days because it's Good Friday? And then they spend the entire weekend. It's kind of a little bit insane. Like, some family members are like, no, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. Other family members are like, oh, but maybe. And it's just like this weird weekend where you don't know if your grandmother is going to get up.
Weird and very chaotic.
Very chaotic, yes.
Femi.
My novel follows the fortunes of a young Creole in an unnamed African country who's a medical student and who is sent on a fool's errand by his father to go and rescue his cousin who's drifting. Emile, the protagonist, he sets aside his medical studies and he moves to another city where his members of his extended family live that he does not know very well, that he has not seen in about 7 or 8 years, and who, importantly, come from a very different social class than he does. In this case, they come from a much more working class background than Emile does. And during the course of his life in this unknown city with his extended family, he undergoes a sort of disintegration in which the life path that he has charted for himself, his plan is to be a neurosurgeon, and he begins the novel with a lot of certainties, which by the end of the novel have dissolved in large part through his encounters with two people during the course of the novel. I'll stop there.
Okay, you've actually given a lot. But I want to really go into your story, right? A few months ago, I don't know if we know Tyler, the pop star, of course. There was an interview that she had in America on the Breakfast Club show. And she was asked, are you familiar with Tyler?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So she was asked to educate them or let them know what it is like being a colored person in South Africa. And she moved to her manager. She looked at her manager, and the manager said, we are not answering that question. And she's like, no, I'm not talking. And then I think another question was asked, and she also did not answer that. So it caused some form of uproar on the internet, and we were like, okay, this man simply just asked for you to give this information about where you're from and what it is like being a colored person in South Africa. And when I opened your book, by the way, I went into your book blind. I did not know anything about it. I just started reading. So I feel like Emil, being a young man, is one way or the other can be connected to Tyler because he's trying to find himself. He has left home. He's coming to this town where a Creole town, where the Creoles are the major population there, right? And for the first time, he's getting to see what it is like being an unprivileged Creole person because he's a posh kid, right? And I think I want to use that to get into our reading because it is from there I want to ask my question in line with this. So can you go to page 10?
Sure. Let me preamble by saying that I'm reading from a section fairly early in the book.
So no spoilers.
And it's a section that I think will give you a sense of the mood of the book rather than any great character building or character development. But it also gives you some insights into Emil himself, as well as the transition he's undergoing by driving from the north of the country, from a city that is an analog to Johannesburg, to a city that is an analog of Cape Town. And he spent his whole life, as well as his parents, Errol and Vivian, in the city in the north. So he's driving down to carry out this errand that his father has assigned to him. 1 o'clock in the morning, the fuel needle at half and sleep an undertow tugging at him. He catches himself nodding a third time and pulls over onto the road's dirt shoulder and leans across to retrieve the thermos from where it has rolled beneath the glove compartment. The chill air of the hinterland steppe sends him ducking back inside the car for a sweater. Out beyond the road shoulder is a blind darkness. Little by little, he makes out the forms of things. The livestock fence, 3 strands of fletching wire strung across plastic posts, and after the fence, unrelieved scrubland. In the palm of his hand, the lines are faint and silvery, catching he knows not what refracted light. His father had once said that men carry in them the seeds of their destiny. He snorts a grim half-laugh. The coffee is little better than tepid and tastes oily, but it revives him. As he downs a second cupful, his night vision, only just attuned to the gradations of darkness, fails, and he is again squinting just to make out the 3-line fence. With the dawn, there is a view toward the west of foothills, a mountain range. A mountain range Emile is unable to identify. The ridge faces covered in a brown gorse resembling billiard table bays. A few kilometers beyond the village of Three Sisters are obsidian hillsides, vestiges of some drowned volcano, polished to a dim shimmer by wind and prairie sand. In a shallow depression, an antelope grazes among goats, its racer stripes faded in the distance. In this place, neither winter nor summer bring adequate rain. The wadis, sand gullies left after streams have evaporated, are littered with man's plastic detritus. There are oases, too, which he cannot see, the desert trees crowding so closely over the rills and springs where water surfaces as to seem greedy. A little before noon, he slows the car to a crawl and then to a sharp stop. The tires kick up tall, wavering wraiths of dust. Two boys scramble out from their tarpaulin shelter and give chase. They lug wooden crates with arms stiffly outstretched, protecting their wares from jostling. While he finishes pissing next to the car, they wait unmoving and discreet in a wailing silence. They are jungen, these fruit sellers, but their faces are wizened from long days beneath the austral sun. Much of their liquid intake likely comes from the oranges and grapes they cannot sell. Most of the water in these parts goes to irrigate the orchards. The faint bulge of their eyelids and the younger boys' upturned, staring nostrils are proof of the indigenous blood they carry. It is in Emile too, if less so. Emile hawks to expel grit from his throat and spits. He is unable to account for his high-handed manner towards the jungen, which cannot be explained away by fatigue. He is not Vivian, in important ways is very unlike her, but in his present brusqueness is an echo of her. The jungen are in fact his father's people, in more than one sense. Errol had been born not more than 150 kilometers from this place, had grown up in roughly similar circumstances to these boys, by his own accounts. Were he here now, Errol Silva would not go stiff and uptight, but instead slip into the role of uncle, a persona Vivian finds irksome. Errol would demand of the youths whether they were still in school, what they planned to do after matriculating, perhaps even pressing as to whether they had considered 2-year college. Emile shakes his head at an offer of strawberries, too prone to bruise and weep in the heat, and he gestures an interest in the mandarins, nodding as the taller boy counts out a handful.
Okay. So we see here that Emile has met these two young boys that look like him, but have different experiences because they are less privileged. I'd just like you to speak more as to the reality of what that is like in the world that you've created.
Yeah. Let me say that this little vignette provides a foretaste of what Emile will encounter when he arrives in Stadmutter, where his family lives. As you point out, he's Creole, he's brown. They are Creole, they're brown, and yet he finds himself treating them with a brusqueness that he's not able to understand, which he identifies with his mother. And it contrasts with the way that he imagines his father would treat them. And I think this provides a foretaste of Emile's his grappling with his Creole identity, which is something he's not much done, but it also sort of provides an explanation for the reasons why his father has sent him on what is a fool's errand. His father has asked him to go and rescue a cousin who's the same age as himself, which, you know, is obviously a fool's errand. One 22-year-old, no matter how privileged, cannot rescue another one. And I think at some point Emile wonders whether Emile wonders exactly what the source is of Errol's desire to see his son reconnect more strongly with his roots. If it's a perception that, you know, he's too privileged and he's grown up, you know, so privileged that he cannot properly understand what it means to be Creole.
And to see if it's actually possible to fully understand. Louisa.
Hello.
Hi. So both your stories actually move heavily on the characters and their surroundings, right? So I want us to read from where we agreed we were reading from, so we can get a good sense of the chaos that is going on in this story.
Okay. Just for a bit of backstory, at this point, the matriarch, her name is Mary. So Mama Mary has passed away, and the entire family is gathered. Her sister, Auntie Nancy, is there and has received a premonition that her sister is going to rise from the dead. And so the family is in chaos. Please bear with me. There's a lot of people talking over each other in this scene. I'm going to try to do my best. Okay.
In case you have the book with you, we're reading from page 74.
Yeah.
After the demarcation.
Okay. I don't think Mom made that decision herself. Auntie Nancy claps her hands and then spreads them apart like she's laying out the facts. So, you see? No, I don't. If my sister has died today, it is because of Juju. Joy groans. Oh, no. Yes. Joy is speechless. She turns to Nena, to her uncle Ezekiel. Hell, even James, as stuck up as he is, anyone to come and save her from this. She can't believe this is happening. Her mother passed away on her birthday. And to be fair, Joy didn't even know dying on your birthday was allowed. And Auntie really dares invoke witchcraft as the reason. She shudders, absolutely trembles at the accusation. Auntie should know better than to say that, especially after what happened with Peace. She swallows down the discomfort, the need to run upstairs and hide or cry. Instead, Joy looks into her auntie's eyes and says, "We did not kill my mother," her voice wavering. "Well, somebody did," Nancy goes on, without missing a beat. "Somebody is using my sister for ritual. Where is Michael's wife?" she asks, looking around. After a moment, once she realizes none of the faces staring back at her are Shelley's, she scoffs, like that's confirmation enough. "So, you see?" "No," Joy growls. "I really don't. Besides, what does it matter that she's not here?" "Why does it matter?" "She's your brother's wife," Nancy says, her voice rising, as if this is the climax in her long story. Here, finally, we arrive at the point. "Now, Shelley is not here, and my sister is dead." "Auntie, I guarantee you Shelley wasn't using Mom for ritual," she says aloud, but in her mind, the smallest conspiracy theorist, fresh off several 5-part Village movies, murmurs, "Well, you don't know that, though. Like, genuinely, how would you know?" Then how can a healthy woman of 70 just die on her birthday? On Good Friday, the day our Lord was killed. What is it if not juju? Joy throws up her hands in defeat. An accident, maybe? Bad timing? I don't know. Accident, K. On Good Friday, the day our... Okay, I got it. "Let me tell you something," Auntie says, narrowing her eyes. "And you people won't understand because you were raised here." In the corner, James opens his mouth, probably to protest and remind them that, actually, he was born and raised in Nigeria and only came here for university. But Ezekiel, most likely sensing that James is about to assert himself, quickly hisses, a sharp, pointed exhale, and James shrinks immediately. Nancy goes on, "If someone is doing juju, there are 2 things they use, fire and accident." Joy suppresses a groan. Auntie waiting. Joy, Michael re-enters, holding a bevy of cards and pamphlets. Behind him, Joy sees nothing. She's trying not to see. There are paramedics standing around. They're doing something. A body on a stretcher, maybe zipping it, maybe just covering it, maybe. She doesn't know. It all looks blurry when she tries to focus. And she is definitely trying. Absolutely. Joy. Michael snaps his fingers in front of her face to get her attention. He holds up a few of the papers. The paramedics talked me through some of the next steps. They haven't gone yet, but they're asking if Mom had a will. Did she? Joy bites her lip. She doesn't have the energy. Her body feels heavy, and her mind clouds like a muddy river. I don't know, she utters and turns away. Auntie Nancy scoffs. So, you see? Joy also doesn't have the energy to explain to her aunt how infuriating it is that she's using every banal, basic thing as proof of witchcraft. Maybe Mom is right, Nena pipes up. Her voice is hoarse from her wailing. She has to clear her throat a few times before the words come out properly. Think about it. It is weird for Mama Mary to just die like this. She was reading the Bible, and then she went to lie down, and just like that, she died? No, it doesn't really make sense. Joy swallows, shaking her head. Nena, please don't do this. Nena frowns. Do what? So I can't ask a question again. You're not asking a question, Nena, Michael cuts in angrily. His temper flares up, surging in each word. You're making an accusation. You better be careful. Hey, James rushes over, pointing a finger at Michael. You better not be accusing my wife of witchcraft. I'm warning you, Michael. What? Joy and Michael speak at the same time. Quickly, Joy steps in front, between them, before it turns into something it really shouldn't. James's chest is puffed out as normal, glaring daggers at Michael. Michael is growing more and more irritated by the second at the fact that this balding man would choose to challenge him. Nena's arms are crossed as she looks from wall to wall, avoiding the catastrophe she set in motion a moment ago. Uncle Ezekiel is trying to call Auntie Nancy back to the sofa, and Joy cannot believe this is happening. She can't believe she has to deal with her family making a mockery of her sorrow, of her grief, their grief, on top of all the other shit she had to organize. Of course, they probably don't see it that way. They don't ask who booked the house. They don't mention whose idea it was to do the weekend staycation. They don't even wonder how many different DJ ebukas exist in the greater Toronto area. All they know how to do is fight and take and argue and take and take and take. She's so tired of it.
Okay, so this is their family members, and they're arguing about. They're very interesting with this is not the time to argue about mundane things.
No.
And I like the allusion to juju, all right? Because they are a very religious Christian family, but somehow, even Auntie Nancy, that's on the cover,
Yes.
she has a Bible in her hand. She's the
course.
one that said, it is juju,
Yeah.
right? And it just reminded me of a conversation I had with some of my colleagues a few weeks ago, right? I don't know how the conversation started, but he said his mom died mysteriously. And when the family members heard the story, I don't think they even really heard the story. The moment they heard she's dead and nothing happened, she wasn't ill, nothing, the first thing that they said is, it is the family members, it's from his father's side, they've done something. Is it witchcraft? They've done something.
Yes.
And we kind of started like a mini argument because I was trying to say, see, they were maybe looking for someone to blame, something to blame. There is no explanation. They have to put it somewhere. And someone else was saying, please, this is an African thing. We are the ones that do it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if it's true or not true, but I wanted to different Africans. Right? But here we see the dichotomy between Juju and Christianity within the same family. And because you were born and raised in Canada, there's this idea that diaspora Nigerians are not really connected to the roots. They've not seen the effects of Juju the way we have, one way or the other.
Yes.
And I just want to ask if growing up there somehow affected your connection to our roots, how it influenced your writing, how it actually even influenced this part of the book where Juju and Christianity, African spirituality are mentioned in the same breath.
Yeah. It's really interesting because it's true. Like growing up in Canada, I don't think I was exposed the same way as like what my parents would talk about. I even remember last time I was in Nigeria, I went with my dad. We went to his town, and he showed me around. He's like, "This is this place," and then just very casually, he's like, "And over there is the wizard. Like, don't go." And then we just kept going, and I was like, "Oh, sure." But it's one of those things that to him, he's like, "Yes, like it's serious. Like, do not."
Yeah.
And to me, I'm curious because I'm just like, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm just the only person. I don't know. Where I'm like, yeah, I want to know what he saw, like what happened that made them. Maybe I don't want to know.
One of your characters was actually curious that way, and she found out.
Exactly. Exactly. That's that. But yeah, I don't know. I've always found it interesting because I'm not that connected to, I guess, that aspect of it, like that sort of deep-seated belief. But in other ways, I think my upbringing really did heavily influence the novel, just in the sense that because I'm very curious about it, it naturally just sort of seeped in. And I don't think my novel has any definitive answers about, like, this is that or this is that, but it was just like an exploration because I'm very curious about those things and those stories that I hear my parents talk about.
But do you believe that some of them are true?
Do you know what? Okay, a little bit, and I think I don't know why, because if somebody asked me, like I have a friend, and she's Nigerian as well, and she's always telling me about how her aunt knows a woman in her village who did something wrong and then turned into a goat, and I was like, she tells me the story, and I'm like, yes, like I believe it for some reason, like I'm not like, no, that doesn't. I'm like, yeah, like of course. Every time you see a goat in the village, like that could be your aunt or something. And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't know what it is. If it's just something in me that's like, yeah, of course. Like, just leave that alone. Of course it's true. I don't know. I can't say.
Fair enough. But your main character, Joy, one way or the other, she's grappling with her identity. Besides the fact that she was also raised in Canada, right? She's just gotten a divorce, and she's kind of, one way or the other, trying to create another sense of identity. So for her, it's more than just, okay, I'm a double national. I do not have 100% connection to Nigeria because I wasn't raised there. And even her family members throw jabs at her because of that. But I want you to speak more about the identity of Joy and how she's struggling with it after divorce.
Yeah. Oh, it's an interesting thing because at some point, I don't think it's a spoiler, but I also feel like for many people in the diaspora, it just kind of is a natural thing that we sort of think of, where after Mama passes away, Joy immediately feels like a weird sort of emptiness because she's like, that was her connection to her home. And without her mom, she feels like, oh, because she doesn't speak, their family is Igbo, but she doesn't speak it. She was hoping her mom would have taught her son how to speak it, and her mom passes away. So it's kind of just this direct feeling of like that part of her identity is changing, has changed abruptly, and she's not dealing with that well. She's not really dealing with the fact that she feels out of control in her life. Like you mentioned, she's divorced, but her family doesn't really accept it. They don't really understand why it happened. She's also she had a twin sister who passed away, so she's also just trying to fill this void that feels like it's unfillable a bit for her. And that also kind of plays into her identity crisis. It's just like one thing on top of the other.
Okay, fair enough. For Emil, he's also struggling with his identity, right? But there's this thing that happens with mainstream media. And like I said before, I knew very little about the Creole situation in South Africa. But Emil, right, he has just come into this town, and he starts to see the different kinds of situations there are. From our knowledge, or I would say mine particularly, I only know about the two. The effects of racial partition in South Africa, even as is still being experienced till today, even for us, post-colonialism, we still experience the effects till today, right? And for Emil, he starts to see that, okay, even in this town where there are blacks and there are whites, but they are majorly Creoles, and he's starting to see the differences in how they are treated, even with the job opportunities, the access to resources, the two boys that do not have access to clean water and all of that. I'm quite interested in exactly what the Creole situation is in South Africa, because what we know is there is this binary between the blacks and the whites, but there is a middle that has been marginalized, and I really want to know more about that.
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. So my interest in this book was, I think, spurred by living in Cape Town and sort of coming into an awareness that there are many Creole societies around the world. I think many of us, when we think of Creole societies, we think of Brazil, we think of the Caribbean. I think the US in its own way is a Creole society. And South Africa is a Creole society. And by Creole society, I mean that it's a society that has a continuum of colors and ethnicities that has been created by colonialism and slavery. And what was interesting for me is the way in which the role of the Creole is different in different societies. I think that there are certain societies, broadly speaking, where the Creole can be a source of aspiration for both whites and blacks. And I would say that certain societies in the Caribbean have been that. And then I would say that you have other societies that are decreolized by various contingencies of history. For instance, in America, because of the one-drop rule, even people who were quite mixed, and I think that Andy made this point in a very different context. There's a range of terms. There's a huge range of terms in Creole societies for all the different shades and gradations of shades in Creole societies. So the premise of my book is that because of apartheid, South Africa is also a decreolized Creole society. Apartheid essentially made all the different groups in South Africa members of different tribes. And this process was essentially sharpened in some way by the end of apartheid. In the pre-apartheid era, I think there was a fair amount of solidarity among black and brown people against the apartheid system, which, broadly speaking, excluded all of them. And following the end of apartheid, there was a very common saying among the colored community, which is typically the term that the mixed race people of the Western Cape use. They would always say that they were too black during apartheid and that they were not black enough after apartheid. And so my interest was to explore exactly what that meant and where that feeling of having been marginalized before apartheid and continuing to feel marginalized afterwards might lead. And one of the ways in which I do that is by creating a character, Brahim Shaka, who is pushing for the Creole community to receive reparations from the black government of South Africa, which is definitely overturning, a familiar trope that we have, of reparations. But it also draws very much on the narrative of reparations that is coming out of the US. I hope that very obliquely answers your question, Thandie.
It did. But I like that you mentioned Brahim Shaka because he's some form of a revolutionary in the story. And despite the fact that people question whether he's the right person to do what he's doing because he's fighting for the rights of the Creoles in that state, I just wondered, do you think the Creoles and what they're fighting for to be, awarded their rights and have equal rights with every other South African and what the community really needs, do you think it's something that they can get without violence? We're going to read the other part where Brahim was mentioned. But we really do not have time for that. All right, we do not. But he is a revolutionary that is trying to fight for the rights of the Creoles in the state, and is someone that even the governor of the state has recognized this guy and has started pushing back somehow, and it started to cause some form of unrest in the state. And I just wondered, for them to actually get what they want, or generally in the Creole community, do you think what they need can be gotten without violence?
I don't know.
Okay, first, that has actually threw me off because he's one of them. But based on his history, right, it seems like he also has some other motives. Yeah, and it also begs the question that, okay, some of the people that fight for our rights, even here in Nigeria, if their motives can also be questioned, because he, according to even other characters that are doubting him, they're questioning his motive. I don't know what you have to say about that.
Yeah, well, I think without giving too much away, I think they're right to question his motive. A little bit of the backstory of Brahim Shaka is that he has been a law student at a top university in the US, and he has been expelled from the US by becoming involved in the protest movement against Israel. And while I don't want to go into this too much, I was writing this at a time when Israel and student protests against Israel were not very much in the news. So it was actually a little bit of a surprise when earlier this year and late last year, the student demonstrations on US campuses took off, and also the Trump administration began pushing to expel foreign students from the US for being vocal advocates. Yeah, it's back. Yeah, so there is very much a sense that Brahim Shaka, this firebrand, is being driven by his own personal grievances linked to having been kicked out of the US.
Am I working? Okay.
No, it's fine. But let me also say that there's a section of the book where he tries to tie the situation of the Palestinians to the situation of his own people in the Western Cape, and in some sense he seems to reject the idea that there are parallels between the two. You know, I think he feels his people to be oppressed both historically and in the present, but he rejects the idea that his people are the Palestinians of the country. I'll stop there.
Wonderful. I actually have like 1,000,001 questions for you, even the ones that I've written down. But I just want to ask one because my time is actually up. On religiosity, all right. So according to how it is portrayed in your book, there's a way you spoke about our religiosity, African religiosity. Here, it seems as though we worship religion more than we actually worship God, right? And it's really funny because there's this character Nancy, the main lady on the cover still, and Auntie Nancy, right? She had a premonition that her sister is somehow, after she died, is somehow like another Jesus, God's daughter, to resurrect on Easter Sunday, right? And it's interesting now, okay, you're deluded or you're going through grief enough to believe this, but she was able to carry hundreds of people along with that idea, and people from, even in Nigeria, from different places, and there they had like a vigil that was really well attended, right? They really believed that, yes, someone that has died is going to be resurrected on Easter Sunday. This is something that she was able to do. And I think it speaks to how we view faith to some extent, and how we view religion, and how we believe 100% that we should have faith as long as someone says, God spoke to me, all right? I was just looking at that character and that situation, and I was wondering, okay, for her to have been able to convince hundreds of people about this, are we really like this? And are we really like this? And were you in one way or the other trying to, throw one small jab at us that, look, the way we worship over here is ridiculous?
No problem. It is true. Should I?
Okay, I think you can go ahead. Yeah, the microphone.
That's a very good question. So with Auntie Nancy's character in particular, I wasn't trying to throw any jabs, I promise. But I was just I've always seen people like that. I know a lot of people like that. And I'm very fascinated by them because their belief is so staunch. But I think in Auntie Nancy's perspective, or just the way that she's dealing with things, and like I said, a lot of people I feel are quite similar, instead of feeling things fully, they will kind of shut that off and immediately be like very militant with their faith and with their belief. And in her case in particular, it's not helping. It's a little bit of a coping mechanism, where instead of coming to a place of acceptance, like, this is what has happened to me, this is how I feel, it's like, no, that's impossible. God has promised me something. God always delivers. That is what I'm going to hold on to. And I think for everybody then, for her to have mobilized all these people and set up this vigil and everything like that, and for everyone to be like, yeah, it's happening. Like, there's a point in the book, I think I refer to them as like church people come and they have T-shirts and they're like, yeah, this is going to happen and everything. I think that just speaks to the larger idea that, like, we all want to believe in something and we all want to believe in miracles very, very deeply. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think that is just a part of human nature. Like, we want to believe in good things and in goodness.
All right, I'm going to stop here. So, I already got the... Thank you. All right, so questions, please. I see you. Okay, any more hands? All right, let's start with the bearded guy. Where's the microphone? Okay.
Hi. So my question is for Louisa. I'm a fellow Canadian, so
Yay.
yes, one of us. But I was really interested. One of the things that were mentioned is the characters losing a connection to home or feeling like they lost connection to home because someone passed away. I'm curious if for you, in the experience of writing this book, like, if that influenced your connection to Nigeria at all, and if so, how?
Yeah, it made me feel through the course of writing it. It made me kind of accept, I think, my life, because for a very long time, I wouldn't have admitted it before, but I felt like I was always like, oh, I don't feel like I am enough Nigerian for this or whatever. But I couldn't still pick apart the parts of my life that I was like, yeah, this is the Nigerian side and that's the Canadian side, because it is sort of merged together. But in the process of writing this, I think I finally am just like, it's fine. I have a friend she's Korean Canadian, and she said her mother gave her this really good quote that it's like, you are still your identity, like you're still Korean, just in a different font. And so I like to think of that, right? It was really good when I read it. I was like, I love it. But I like to think of that for myself, like I'm still Nigerian, but just a different font. Like I don't have, obviously, a lot of the experiences of the people who grew up here. But then if I go back to Canada, like I'm not the same as all of my Canadian friends. And so there's just a difference. And for me, it was just like, yeah, you just have to accept this is what it is, so.
So I saw a hand there. Okay. Oh yeah, it was you. Sorry.
Hi. My question is also for Louisa. I think I read Pride and Joy some months back, and what fascinated me was the cover, because I saw a woman holding a Bible sitting on a cow, and I already knew that a lot was going to. So reading the book, I felt like there was a lot to unpack, right? I know that the resurrection story was supposed to be the, riding plot, but there was plot of grief. What I know about cousins is that they are usually best friends, especially female cousins, but we see Inena and Joyon and even the kids, I think there was a part I highlighted where Inena said something in the line of, is it not funny that our kids are the same age, but you had yours out of wedlock? Yeah.
Yes.
And this is somebody that is grieving her mother. And she just told herself, grace, joy, have grace. I held on to that part. And I was looking at Auntie Nancy and Mama Mary. And I saw a little bit of myself, because I felt like everything, the old myth, superstition came from a place of grief. Because I remember I was 9. My dad died 2 days after my 9th birthday. And I know that most of my secondary school, instead of admitting to myself, like, I poured sand on this man, I saw you under the ground. But I always told myself that he's probably somewhere in the north, doing something that he's just going to come back one day. And I dreamt about it for the longest time. So I feel like as human beings, he's the closest person to me in my life up till now. I don't think anybody has influenced me that much. And I feel like when you lose some, because we saw the trajectory while she was always following her every step. So I feel like grief does something to you that, you just don't want to let go. You just create something in your head that makes you feel like one day I will have this person back or something. So I felt like, but I feel like what you did in the book, it was exploring different things. Aside from the faith, there was the grief, there was family secrets, there was, relationships, family relationships, the relationship between parents and children. And, when children leave their parents to, depend on another family member, that they feel there's so much to unpack from Pride and Joy. So my question to you is, you've created so much, a lot to take away, but when people read Pride and Joy, what's that one thing? It's like Fuji House of Commotion in an extended family. But what do you want us to take out exactly from that? Because I kept asking myself, what exactly were you thinking, tying all of this together?
She did that excellently.
Oh, thank you. What was I thinking? Oh man, I think I just wanted to show how messy and how varied the human experience is, and that grief is not linear. Like, I think there's a quote in the book, I think it's Joy who says it, or maybe it's just like the exposition, where it's something like every time, because at that point, Joy has lost her father and her twin sister, and then now her mother. So it's like, she's like, grief just keeps coming back, and when you feel like you're done, it will come back to remind you that you are nothing, and it will just keep coming back. And it's like, that unfortunately is just life, and just how messy and how demoralizing it can feel. I think I just wanted to show that none of us are perfect in the face of that kind of feeling. And the important thing is to just allow yourself to feel it. So, thank you.
Okay. We have more questions. Wait, do we have more questions? Because I have like a billion questions, but go ahead.
Yeah, so while you were speaking, I